The Irrational Confidence Podcast. Missouri going down to Tuscaloosa. Missouri is 6-1 on the year, 2-1 the conference, but really we just kind of feel like they're, for the Tigers, they're a paper tiger. Take a look at Alabama Crimson Tide. Kalen DeBoer is finding out that life is not easy in Alabama. They hate the state of Tennessee, but luckily they're going home to Alabama. They're 5-2 on the year, 2-2 in conference right now. Over under right now is set at 56.5. Alabama, a 14 points favorite in this football game. Fresh, this is like just the disappointing, like you'd think that it would be so much better. This reminds me of like the stratosphere / circus part of town. It's a cool novelty, but it leaves you wanting something more in regards to Vegas.
Well, first thing I'll take it from Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame. You see there's a meme out there with Baby Gamora and Thanos. And it's like, did it beat Georgia? And Thanos is like, yes. It's like, at what cost? Losing to Vanderbilt and Tennessee.
Right.
The undisciplined nature from some of those players on the field. It's the vibe at Alabama right now is not. We knew it wasn't going to be the same, but it's changed so dramatically in 6 games. It's a shock. Even Alabama fans, I think they probably figured, all right, we went out there, we thumped them early, we thumped Georgia early in the first half. We were on top of the world. It was 30-7 at halftime. Ever since then, it's been a complete disarray. If it's not for Ryan Williams making an amazing catch and an amazing play athletically and going for 75 yards, they probably lose that ball game to the Dogs. And then we're at 3 losses now at that point, and Alabama hasn't lost 3 games in the regular season forever. So that one play makes them save their season. They kind of thought they were okay. You lose to Vanderbilt the week after. You kind of almost lose. Should have lost South Carolina. And then you come out there and there's a pretty ugly offensively effort from both teams. Both quarterbacks look terrible, but you lose on Rocky Top. This Missouri team has looked terrible all year, but you can't overlook anyone right now because you are struggling across the board defensively and offensively. There's no one stepping up on the defense making a play. They don't have the Will Andersons, the Dallas Turners, or any of the plethora of dominant players that were under the Saban era on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, it just seems like it's Jalen Miller run around, make a couple throws, Jam Miller or Justice Haynes maybe get a couple carries here, and then throw the ball to Ryan Williams when you're in despair. The offensive line's not playing like they should. You have a couple, preseason All-Americans who they look like the security guard meme where he lets everybody by and he's trying to walk through. There's no one's protecting anybody. It's not the Alabama that we were used to seeing in the past 15 years or so. And that kind of concerns me because does DeBoer lose the locker room? You guys be like, hey, you're not Nick Saban. You didn't recruit me. I'm tired of this nonsense. I'm going to make my own business decision. This is a culture thing, which you've got to set the standard and reorganize what's going on in that locker room for Alabama. And, if you don't, it could become a real painful moment down the stretch where things can get out of control. Missouri side, people had high expectations for Missouri. We both knew they were going to kind of be a fraud build. And we're being proven right. We're not getting a season of Luther Burden. Theo Weiss is not dominating. That defense is nothing like it was last year under Coach Baker when he moved to LSU. You definitely seen the change in defensive philosophies where last year they actually played heavily, pretty solid defense. He leaves LSU. LSU's improved defense. Your defense has gotten worse. And I think we all overlooked the fact that you lost 2 starting corners, a linebacker or 2, a couple of defensive linemen starters, and a starting safety. Like that entire starting defense is now gone from Missouri. You had to replace all that talent. This team right now has no identity. They're not a run first team. They're not a throw first team. They're not a defensive team. They're just getting by the chinny chin chins. We saw it versus Boston College. We saw it versus Vanderbilt. We saw it this past week versus Auburn. They have not looked dominant, and they've played average at best football teams, or overachieving football teams, probably the best way to put it. And they've struggled. You're going to Alabama against a bad Alabama team by our standards. You might get the brakes beat off and you might get blown out because number one, they probably have more talent just on the roster and they're pissed off because they just got beat by Tennessee and they have not won a game instead of Tennessee this year. This is a major gut check moment for Drink and that Missouri program. You had high expectations and you are far, far from meeting them, much less surpassing them. You've got to go into Tuscaloosa, batten down the hatches, and play smart football. Brady Cook being dinged up and having to go to the hospital during that game and coming back, that's very heroic and all. But how's he going to be on Saturday? Is he going to be able to handle the load to be able to play the tie? You got to tell them they're going to be angry, they're going to be feisty, they're going to come after it. So this game is about the wills of these two programs and who's truly really ready to fight. I think Alabama has more talent. I think Milroe can outrun the Missouri Tigers. It'll be an ugly game to watch. Alabama will win, and we'll start really questioning what's going on in Missouri. Alabama keeps themselves alive. Very, very faint hopes, but this game is more of an elimination for both schools.
Fresh Missouri is that guy who goes to the roulette table and puts money on 0 and 00 all the time. And no, stop. It's a terrible strategy right there on that one. I get if it's one of the numbers you play and you play like a section, but it's like if they put just, putting $10 onto a single number, hoping that one out of 36 there hits or 38. This Missouri team is absolutely ridiculous, man. It annoys me how the AP still has them ranked at 21. I get it. They're 6-1, 2-1 in the SEC. But again, you take a look at all their games. You take a look at the eye test there. They're not a good football team. Okay, yeah, people will take that and make a little sound clip of it, and they will say, well, would they beat like a Nevada or, they beat UMass. They'll beat all the teams in the MAC and all that stuff as well. But really, are they a quality SEC team? And the answer is no. The answer is no, because you think that they were this great team. They had a nice run last year. They beat Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. Everyone's riding high, and they lose all the talent to the NFL draft. They lose coaching staff members. That's what happens when you have a good year as a program. Those things happen. That's the way of life in football. And everyone said, oh, you bring back Brady Cook, you bring him back Burden, you bring back all these guys. Yeah. We'll overrank them. Overrated. The most overrated team in college football is the Missouri Tigers. Alabama, I think, is soul searching right now. I think that they are trying to figure out who they want to be. Kalen DeBoer he kind of didn't have the level of pressure over at Washington coming into this. And he was able to kind of make the team in his image and develop them and just have Michael Penix Jr. just ball out. Train the wide receivers, have them become first and second round draft picks there. And then you take a look at what they're doing. All these guys are going to be a Nick Saban guy for the time being. Now, what I would say to the Alabama fan base, and this is going to be very, very difficult for them to hear, patience. I don't think Kalen DeBoer forgot how to coach football. I think Kalen DeBoer is a great football coach. If he was a terrible football coach or a terrible leader, Washington would not have made the national title game last year. They wouldn't have beat Oregon twice last year, a couple times in 2 years. He wouldn't have put all those players into the first round. If you're comparing him against Nick Saban, who has an argument to be the greatest college football coach of all time, yeah, DeBoer's never going to measure up to that. But also remember what Nick Saban's first season was like in Tuscaloosa. It was a disaster. And I want to say, was it following year they won national title?
2 years after that. 2007, they lost to Monroe. They played in the Independence Bowl. 2008, they played for an SEC title. 2009, I believe they
won a national title.
Yeah.
It was within the first 3 years.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Years. 9, maybe 10. But it was early on.
With DeBoer, I think he needs time. I think he needs time to understand the huge scope of what he's dealing with. Alabama will be just fine. You will still be a great tier program. You're not going to go into the depths of Florida, but I'm going to preach patience to you guys. Milroe has looked really good at times, and then he's also looked like a young kid who is still trying to figure out this whole playing quarterback thing. I think he would actually – there's been some talk – he's draft eligible, if I remember right.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, he's junior this year. That's correct. I think Milroe should go back a year. I think he should come back one more year. I think he'd benefit from another year under Kalen DeBoer. Again, for me, it's going to come down to Alabama control the line of scrimmage. Are you able to run the football down this Missouri team's throat? I think you are. I think Alabama's going to crush them. I think Missouri is going to be squashed like a bug in this game. This game is going to be over by halftime. I hope it's over by halftime because I want Missouri I want AP voters to stop living in the past here and being a prisoner of the moment of saying, oh, Missouri's still good there. And I'm like, no, it's not true at all. Missouri is not a good football program. I get it. You're 6-1. You're looking at what the record is. Watch the football games there. Missouri, I'll eat my words. I'll eat my words. You beat Alabama. You beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. I'll eat my words. I'll come on here. I'll say you're a great football program. I was dead wrong. But until you do something like that, I'm taking the Tide big in this football game.
It's funny you mentioned that patience. And you're right. When DeBoer got to Washington, that team was coming off of a 1-win season, and the coach got fired halfway through. Like, it was a mess. So he had,
right.
You couldn't get any worse. And he was able to get his guys in there and build it up and advance quietly under the guise of, hey, it's Pac-12, it's way out there in Seattle and fine like that. Here, the magnifying glass is much more present and it shines brighter. So it's just, they're going to be magnifying and looking at every little thing he's doing. But yeah, being patient with the coach. People stressed it before the season started. I think that Georgia win, especially that first half, put them in a spot where like, oh my God, maybe we're even better now. And in reality, it's kind of stepped in that there is some deficiencies in that roster from a talent perspective. They have to reload a little bit and get moving.